Hi there, welcome back to Nikki Does. I'm looking and it's about 5 o'clock right now, 5:09 in the evening, and I have to say, my crew decided that they were done at 5. They've decided they're not staying late. They're not going to do anything past 5, so I'm sorry today, but you just get me. So here we go. We're going to be talking about label printers. It's just me and it's you, so it's an intimate little conversation about labels. This is a label printer that's certainly quite a few years old. It doesn't have many labels printing on it, but it's certainly quite old. But it's the same technology as what's used today. And I've got a number of other printers here, same technologies generally, but a little bit different formats, and I wanted to show those to you. This is how places like Amazon would print their labels for boxes and so on. If you get a lawnmower or lots of different things and it has some sort of label on it, this one happens to be a very paper label, but we have other labels which are much more durable than this. This is direct thermal, so there is no ribbon inside here, and it's just heat that changes the color of the label, so it wouldn't last very long. These are generally UPS shipping labels in this one. But we have lots and lots of other types of labels and lots of other printers. I'm just going to go through a few of these quickly. This one is from the early 2000s, and it is a Brady TLS 2200. And this one was pretty cool at the time because it had a cartridge of labels that had an RFID tag in it, or I guess a one-button single wire connection thingy, some memory. And you'd put this in here, and it would automatically set all the stuff. And in the side is a ribbon cartridge, and that ribbon cartridge also, when you put it in here, it tells you need this one's a 4310 ribbon. So when you put the label in, it says use a 4310 ribbon. So this didn't have any memory in it, but this did. And when you turn it on, then you can, of course, type on the keyboard that is not QWERTY, so you had to struggle to find A, B, C, and so on. But you could then print your labels, and it printed all sorts of cool stuff like symbols and things for electronics, very much like you'd expect from a Brother or Epson, the Brother P-Touch line today. This one is the same thing, only it's a TLS PC link, also from Brady. Same system to read what's in here. The little contacts would discuss what's going on. The same ribbon cartridge over here on the side. If I hit open and pull this out, this one is a 6210 ribbon. So same idea there. And there were oodles of different ribbon types, label types that would go with this. So this was a cool system, and still have quite a few labels for those. Then you have ones like this, which you'll see at UPS places and that sort of thing. This one I don't remember if it's direct thermal only or it is also thermal transfer. So up here is the ribbon, the black ribbon, and down here is the label. And every time you hit print, the black kind of inky stuff that's stuck to this polyester ribbon up here gets transferred onto this label down here. And this label is not a paper label. I know this one for a fact. This one, if we look, it is much more durable than that paper label we just saw. It's made of plastic and it's metallized. I cannot tear this. And if I use the right type of ribbon to print on here, it will be pretty indelible. It's pretty hard to take off. You could certainly use some solvents, but if you just rub it or some alcohol or water, it won't come off. And certainly heat within reason won't mess with this either. So this one was set up for like product labels, okay? And now one thing I didn't mention is that the print head in these, and I've got an extra print head for the Intermec 4400 series. This is a 4440. The print head density, the number of dots per inch, determines how fine the resolution of the labels will be. And if we go back to this pitch test on this one, pretty good example. This is like this is a 406 dot per inch printer, and the pitch of those dots on there, each one of those little dots is quite good. And we see no banding in here, which means so let's go this way. We see no banding in here, which means every one of the elements in here is working. These are staggered, they're checkerboard patterns. So if one of those printhead elements wasn't working, you would see a white line running down this. The lines you see, there are a couple lines you see this way, and I don't exactly know what that is. It's pretty minor, but it has to do, I think, with maybe juddering around or power supply issues or something. I honestly don't know, but it's pretty minor. So this is the printhead, connects with a kind of what looks like an old floppy drive connector from a PC. And in here, in this shiny spot right here, if you can see that reflective spot, is a ceramic element, and the ceramic element has printed on it 406 little lines on it every inch, and those 406 dots per inch are what heat up the paper and make the print happen. So this is a replacement print head, and it sits right underneath, basically right underneath there inside the printer, and we'll open this up and take a look at it in just a minute. So this one is a 400 dot per inch. This one, a GC420T, it's also a 400 or 406 dot per inch. And I believe this one, if I recall correctly, I think this one may be 2. I don't remember by its part number. But most of these are going to be 203 dot per inch, which is plenty of resolution for ordinary things that you would do, barcodes, 2D barcodes, that sort of thing. It really turns out that when you get to small stuff like this small barcode, you couldn't print that. That's not very much. We're only printing 6 characters in there, so that's not much density. But if you want to print a much smaller barcode with a lot of density in there, you're not going to get that with a 203 dot per inch printer. So the high-res printer really helps out for really small labels, or if you want it to look really good, you want your company logo to look good. So let's put these older TLS printers aside, and let's take a look inside of this Intermec, which was bought by Honeywell. So this is an Intermec, was made in Everett, Washington. Built like a brick, you know what, and really a beautiful printer. So here are some test labels from it, and some configuration labels, and that same print density check that we were running. So yeah, pretty cool. This one has a couple of features that I wanted to show off, and some things that I think are interesting. I already mentioned it's 406 dot per inch printer, but it also has something called a either batch printer or rewinder, or self strip. It's a lot of times called, and that means that the matrix, the paper that's the backing paper, gets rolled up on this core, and that's why I didn't have to peel each label off. Every time I hit print, like this, you'll see the backing paper gets wound up like that. That's not common for these printers. That's an extra option that you would have to get. Most of the time, the paper with its backing come out the front, but you can see if the job is for the worker to just grab a label, it presents itself beautifully right at the front. In fact, let's jump a little closer to this. By the way, I'm using this software from Intermec called PrintSet, which is like the printing setup software. So PrintSet, and this is an older version, 2.41, I believe it is. So yeah, 2.41, because it's an older printer. I didn't want to try version, I think it's version 5 is the current one. So if I go back to test print here, and I test print a print quality label. Now if I hit print, watch as it goes right off that sharp edge. So there's a sharp edge where it bends the backing material around a sharp edge, and that's what makes sure the label squirts straight out at us. So if I do that again, and the label has moved forward exactly to the right distance where I can just lift it straight off. It's pretty cool, I think. So the way that the printer knows where the start of one label is and where the end of the next label, whatever is by this gap between the label. And there's a minimum distance when you are ordering your labels. They would have to be compatible with the printer. I think they're all pretty standard now. But this is the gap. And there's a sensor, as they say in Star Trek, that is right down in here. It's going to be hard to see. It's right down in there. And the transmit portion, or I don't know which, the transmit or receive portion is at the top, and the other one's at the bottom. It's a pair of LED and phototransistor. And those can be slid in and out by this little doodly here. So if you have a label that the gap doesn't go all the way to the edge, you can find where it is. This knob, by the way, anything green is for you to touch to adjust. So this knob here is how you adjust the width so that the label stays centered in the track of the printer. This one is to open the print head. And if we lift that up and look underneath here, we'll see the same, right in there, we'll see the same print head as this one. There we go. So that sits right there. Right inside there is the print head. And, you know, there's a thing there that kind of keeps the print head level on top and everything else. This whole system up here is for the ribbon. And I don't have the ribbon installed right now, but here's what the ribbon looks like. So the ribbon is really thin, really crinkly and thin. And the supply ribbon goes up here. And this is going to be impossible to do with one hand. But this is supposed to go neatly through here like this. And the take-up ribbon goes here. And I'm not doing it neatly at all, so pardon me for it not looking pretty. Let's see if we can maybe make it work anyway. Get all twisted up, that's going to be... might work. All right, so now you can see the ribbon rolls down around on top of the paper and then comes back up in its own little path. The paper obviously unspools from here, goes down through the same path on top of underneath the ribbon rather, and then the backing goes down here and gets taken up by this take-up spool. So super easy, and in fact, let's get back on the tripod and I'll show you how easy it is to load the paper. So if you've got your production system running and you run out of labels, if you're super critical about it, you probably have a second printer you can switch over to easily. But let's just say we ran out of labels right now. So here we are. We ran out of labels. We take this out. We just slide this core off right here. Once I unlock it, it gets a little bit smaller, which means it's able to slide right off. I take my new labels. That flappy door goes down. Run it through here. I open the door on the front so that my self-strip backing can go down underneath here. And I put the end of the label, which I kind of messed that one up a little bit, but I'll just fold it over because I tore it really poorly. I put that in here and I tighten that up, and let's see if it's ready to go. Did I drop that yet? Nope. And print. It's not happy because I didn't feed a label. All right, so now it should be ready to print. And realize that we are we're using thermal transfer ribbon on top of regular thermal labels, so they look terrible. So let's take our thermal ribbon out of there again. Thermal transfer ribbon off. Close that back up. Feed a label. Let's try another self-test. There we go. Now we're back to perfect looking print. So these label printers and the smaller ones that I showed earlier are identical in function. They're just not nearly as beefy and they're not as fast. Their power supplies can't put out as much power to give them the speed that you want, but there is, just like on the other, there's a print head right under here. There's a print head right under here. There's a platen, a rubberized platen under here, and those two come together and the paper and the ribbon roll together at the same speed. This one can also be set for whether it's direct thermal or thermal transfer. And the other thing I was going to mention is you do have some little gizmos and doodads here if you're a printer wonk. Obviously dirt and dust and debris gets in there. So you have these cleaning cards and they're in foil paper. They've got some alcohol in them. These are ancient. They don't have a date on them, but they are ancient. They're even made in the USA. And when you peel, and it's highly flammable. And when you peel it open, it's basically a piece of paper, kind of a wet paper, and you run it through your printer and it'll drag all that goo out. And then there's also a thermal printer cleaning pen, which I presume is going to be dried out by now, and it sure feels like it is. I feel a little bit of alcohol. It should be filled with alcohol, and this would be used if you have access to your printer element. You would be able to just, oh, it isn't dried out. It's working. So you would do this, so it's a little bit of alcohol, and it would pick up any dirt and debris that's on that print head, and that saves the print head from failing. These usually get gross because people put the labels in upside down somehow, and they stick to the print head, and some adhesive gets stuck on there. So then that forms a little hot spot that gets hot over and over and over, and before you know it, this print head fails. And these are really expensive. I mean, I don't know what they are today, but generally they're hundreds of dollars. So for the commercial printers, these are some extra ribbon. This is the small one for the smaller printer that I showed earlier, the GC420. This one fits in here. Notice there's no take-up spool. You're supposed to use the empty spool from the prior ribbon as the take-up spool for the next ribbon, which is, pretty clever. So, I don't know. I think that's about all I have to show. I guess I'll say one other thing, which is Bartender is the label printing software that I really have been using forever. And this is version 10.1, which is pretty old and no longer for sale. And now they make you run a subscription for this. So I still use this old Bartender 10.1, and it works for simple things that I do. I just run it on an old ThinkPad that's running Windows. So it still works great for me. I just thought this is kind of cool and might be something that you're interested in. If you like these videos about these crazy topics that I do, please do give me a thumbs up. If you're watching this far, you may as well hit subscribe for my silly videos. Thanks for joining me today, and Nicky Does signing out.